Hello and welcome to this week's edition of Money Matters, because after all, money does matter. I'm Paul Smith from Touchstone Education and I hope you are very well. What we're talking about this week in Money Matters is commercial conversions. And I'm actually talking about that building over there. So on the ground floor, we now have tartan tails, and then upstairs, perhaps you can see the for sale sign in the windows. So this, the ground floor and the first floor, used to be an office. In fact, it used to be my accountant's office, so I know it very well. I'm going to talk to you more inside because it's just easier. I'm going to introduce you to a first-time commercial converter, Cara. I think you're going to be really interested in this one, and I think it's going to be absolutely fascinating to see how Cara has structured the deal, and in particular why it makes such good sense for both Cara and the landlord. So come with me now and let's go and meet Cara and let's understand the deal and the numbers. And finally, let's see if you want to do something like this too. Right, let's get going. Hello Cara, how are you doing?
Good, thank you.
Lovely to see you.
Nice to see you too.
Both.
And Bump.
Cara and Bump. So how long have you got to go?
6 weeks to go.
Oh, 6 weeks to go, and you're still doing property stuff.
Yep, still going to continue.
All right. So Cara, this is an office to residential conversion.
Yep.
And shall we talk about the numbers first and how you structured the deal?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So this actually used to be my old accountant's office, and the last time I was in here, this was like the canteen area, or the the eating area for the staff.
Yep.
And you've turned it into the kitchen.
Absolutely.
So what gave you the idea to turn this into a flat? Because it's now a 3-bedroom flat.
I suppose I saw the potential in the size of the property, that it was able to be such a big flat, and had then looked actually at splitting it into 2 dwellings,
Okay.
so that we could have 2 one-bedroom flats.
2 one-beds.
But after speaking to the estate agents around the area, there wasn't much
Top-
actually in it.
Top tip. So if you're going to do an office to residential conversion,
Yep.
start with the end in mind. Eventually you're going to sell it or mortgage it or rent it out or something. So don't just do what you think, go talk to the agents. Smart.
Absolutely.
Smart.
So just getting the quotes in for both, to convert it back into a 3-bed or into 2 single dwellings.
So another Paul, not me, owned the building. So obviously before you could do this, you had to buy this property off of Paul, didn't you?
No, didn't.
What do you mean no? You can't do that. What?
I didn't want the expenditure of all the solicitor's fees in buying,
Yeah.
and then also having to put that capital down.
How much money did you give Paul for this flat to begin with?
Nothing.
Nothing. So Cara got this flat for, well, an office for nothing.
Yep.
All right. So, but you did do a deal with him.
Yes.
So you might have heard of the term joint venture. Cara is a living, breathing embodiment of a fantastic joint venture, because she's done a deal with a landlord who's actually an accountant, and he's given you this property as part of that joint venture. Your part of the joint venture was what?
So my part of the joint venture was to internally refurb the property back into
Sort the planning.
residential. Yeah.
Sort of planning.
Yeah.
Pay for the refurb.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So how much did you personally pay for the refurb?
Again, nothing.
All right. How much did the refurb cost?
So the refurb has now cost 23,000.
23,000.
Yeah.
But again, you've done a joint venture on that with an
Yeah.
investor.
Yep.
So you've got JV number 1, or Cara's got JV number 1 with landlord,
Yeah.
owner. JV number 2, somebody to put the money in.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. So that's really interesting because obviously Paul, the investor, number one, kind of in your joint venture, didn't need any security or anything because he still owns the building.
Exactly.
Yeah. And investor number two, 23 grand. Okay, so to some people, 23 grand is a lot of money. To people with money, 23 grand is not a lot of money. And there are people out there that could do this on a credit card, aren't they?
Yeah, exactly.
So you've put no money in, literally.
Yep.
You haven't bought the property, you've done a joint venture with the property, and like you very wisely said, that's stopped, because if you had bought it to sell it, there'd have been 2 lots of legal fees, 2 lots of stamp duty, so it's just much more efficient. And so no money to buy it, no money to refurbish it, but you've just finished and it's just been valued.
Yep.
We're in Scotland, so it's had a thing called a home report.
That's right.
So up in Scotland, by the way, Cara knows this, you have to have a home report legally before you can put it on the market if it's a residential property, and it has to be done by a RICS surveyor. So you've actually had a RICS, Royal Institute of Surveyors, valuation on it. So what's the valuation?
So the value now is 105,000.
Wow. Were you happy with that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, it's good. Let's work backwards from the 105.
Yep.
So let's say it sells at the home report value, but the market's quite busy here in Scotland at the minute.
I think as well in Helens where the estate agents are getting rid of their stock quite quickly. So
as soon as it's hitting the market, it's pretty much going, and you've literally only had this on a few days, haven't you?
Yeah, that's right.
And you've got people wanting to come and see it already.
Yeah.
So very difficult to say what it's going to sell for, because quite often they sell above home report, don't they?
Absolutely.
We're seeing in Helens we're at anything like 10, maybe even 15% above home report. But anyway, let's just, so that doesn't happen, let's be miserable for a minute.
Yeah.
And we only get 105, you only get 105. How much then does the original owner get from that sale price?
So we'd agreed an original base price of 55,000.
Okay, so from the 105, 55 then goes to other Paul, the accountant, which leaves 50k for you. What expenses do you then need to cover?
So I need to obviously pay the investor back their refurb.
23k.
Which is 23k, and then our legals would come out of that as well.
So if we made it a nice easy number, let's say another couple of thousand.
Yeah.
So let's say instead of 23, it's 25, including all the fees and everything.
Yeah.
So that's going to leave 25 grand for you.
Yeah.
Why would Paul, the accountant, not do it himself?
I suppose a couple of reasons. One
You
is
sweet talked him.
the upfront expenditure of a refurb.
Yeah, so he didn't have to spend the refurb money.
Yeah, exactly. I suppose didn't realise that was a possibility.
I think that's a biggie because he's an accountant, he's not a property investor. So it didn't occur to him that you could turn what used to be half of his, because the downstairs he sold off to somebody else, hasn't he? He sold that, what used to be his downstairs accountant's office, off to another landlord that's then let it out to someone that's grooming dogs, happy days. And he got left with an office on the first floor, and he's thinking, well, what shall I do with that? So it didn't even occur to him to get it into a flat. No upfront money, didn't know he could do it, and zero aggravation.
Yeah.
Get somebody else to do it for you. So he then gets 55 grand, happy days, and you've done all the work.
Yeah.
Right, so that's your JV partner. Let's look now at what did you actually have to do. So you've shaken hands with Paul, you've got an investor to give you the cash to do it up.
Yeah.
What did you have to do next?
So because it was getting changed back from commercial to residential, I had to put into the planning department.
Planning. Yeah, and we're in Scotland.
Yeah.
If this had been in England, or the rest of the UK actually, then going from office to residential, you can do that under what's called permitted development. So many parts of the UK, you actually wouldn't have needed planning. So you had to get planning permission, which is fine, because ultimately it's not that hard.
Yep.
How long did planning permission take you to get?
Oh, it actually took quite a long time because we had to get the architect to come out and do a couple of drawings. So it probably took about 2 months maybe to get the planning permission.
All right.
Which isn't too bad, but I like things to be quick.
I know. I mean, it feels like forever, but in the scale of things, 2 months is not that bad.
Yeah.
And I'm sure, having done it once, you do it quicker the next time.
Yes.
2 months, especially your first time. I normally say to people 6 to 8 weeks. Okay, so you had to get your planning permission. Got your planning permission.
Yep.
Because we're in Scotland, in England, you just crack on and get your building control after you've finished it, probably. Up here, we don't have building control, we have building warrants.
Yep.
So was building warrants your next stop?
Yes, so then it was getting the building warrant.
That's really, really important. If you're watching this and you're investing or living or whatever in Scotland, don't start until you've got your building warrants, because they'll make you start again.
Yeah.
So once your building warrants are approved, now you can go find a builder, can't you?
Yep, definitely. So we had, while we were waiting on the building control coming through, we had quite a few builders out to quote anyway to get the initial quote. And then afterwards, when we had the warrant approved and they had some suggestions of what they wanted added in, then we just got it re-quoted.
Oh, perfect.
So, but very glad I didn't start before.
Yeah, well done. And actually, another top tip, Cara she's chucking tips at you here, I hope you're writing all this down. You can't actually get a proper quote until you've got the building warrant, because until you've got the building warrant, the builder doesn't actually know what they got to do. So if we give an example, you said to me that you had to lower the ceilings and raise the floor.
So it was to do with sound and insulation. So they were the two things that they were picking up on.
All right. So fantastic. So the three reasons normally why they will make you do things to the floor and the ceiling is as soon as you're creating a new, in Scotland this is considered to be a new build, because you're creating a new dwelling. So the fact that, how old is this building? 100, 150 years old? I mean, it's not new, is it?
Yeah.
So this is an old block that's been around forever. But as soon as you do anything to it in Scotland, you have to hit new build standards.
Yeah, exactly.
So after the build is finished, you'd have had to do a sound test.
Yeah.
So they're looking at three things. They're looking at sound insulation, they're looking at thermal heat insulation, and they're looking at fire. So you've got to create a fireproof box, so hours fire separation below, hours fire separation above. So that's why they made you lower the ceiling and raise the floor. And I'm just going to give you a little example of that, because we were talking about this earlier, weren't we? So if I'm 6 foot, so I'm a good measuring tape. Yeah, there's me, 6 foot tall, and that is the gap above my head. So this door would have been either 6'4" or 6'6" to begin with. So you can see how much the floor has been raised. It's been raised, I would say, 3 or 4 inches, and the ceiling would have been dropped the same amount. So the next stage, after sorting out the building warrant, got the builder engaged, how was the actual process of working with the builder? Was it stress-free or aggravation?
Mixed bag.
Mixed bag.
Throughout
the
process.
Were you employing individual trades or a builder?
No, I was employing a builder to manage it.
Very smart.
So I just needed to check in with the builder rather than all the individual trades.
Because you said you spent 23 grand. If you were literally managing the individual trades, you could possibly have maybe saved £3,000 or £4,000 by managing the plumber direct and this and that, but that really would have been a project management piece of work and a half. So, okay. And did you go for like fixed price including everything? Were they supplying and fitting the kitchen, for instance?
Yes, they were.
They just did everything?
Yeah, they did everything. I was fairly hands off.
That's fine. Well, it's good. It's a way to do it. I mean, you did pay for that privilege. You'll have paid a little bit more, 3 or 4 grand. And for ourselves, what we'll normally do, and obviously up to you, and I'm sure you probably do it differently next time because you've learned from this. We tend to buy all our materials from LNPG, Landlord National Property Group. So a kitchen like this, this is this would be equivalent to a magnet kitchen. Probably where it came from.
This is the Highlands, but it's the base range of that would be in the magnet.
Yeah, so if we went and bought this kitchen, including the oven, the hob, the extractor, then this kitchen from LNPG would be around about the £1,000 mark. Depending on your level of experience, you just look at the bill of materials and think, oh right, I'll change that. So, okay, so you've now got a lovely flat and well done. Yes, turned out nice.
Thank you.
As you can see from all the pictures.
Yep.
So what are you doing with it now? Are you going to sell it? Are you going to keep it?
Sell it.
Sell it,
yes.
All right. Because I'm always 6 2/3 about something like this, because You could just take that home report and you could go and get a buy-to-let mortgage, couldn't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
And you could easily get an 80% buy-to-let mortgage.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say you got an 80% buy-to-let mortgage on 105.
Mm-hmm.
That would give you 84.
Yep.
84,000.
Yep.
So from your 84,000, you'd still need to give Paul 55, wouldn't you?
Yes.
So that would leave you with 29 from 84.
Yep.
You'd still have the 23,000 to pay off your builder.
Yep.
Which would leave you with £6,000.
Yeah.
And as you weren't selling it, you wouldn't have the legal fees. You'd have some fees, obviously, to do with the mortgage application and whatever else. So you'd probably end up with 5 or 6 grand tax-free, free, and a flat.
Yeah.
If you do sell it, what did we work out earlier on? You end up with 25 grand.
Yeah.
But obviously, you're going to have to pay tax on the 25 grand.
Yeah, that's true.
So you can have 25 grand. So everybody out there, your choice, what would you do? Maybe put your comments below the video. If this was your flat and it's cost you nothing to get this far, I mean, not nothing, it's cost you work. You've had to do labour stuff, you've had to use your brain and all that other stuff. So it's not an easy decision, is it? You want 25 grand minus tax. Now, depending on your tax rate, you know, if you were paying 40 or even 45% tax, because, you know, if this was your trade, you'd be paying income tax on it. So from your 25 grand, you're going to lose 10 in tax if you're a 40% taxpayer, which is going to bring you down to 15. So it's kind of a pretty narrow judgment at that point. Do you want £15,000 after tax, or do you want £6,000 after tax and money every month costs, it's yours and you're renting it? I'm a keeper, so I would just go.
Especially the market in Helms was actually really good for rentals.
It is. So what do you reckon you'd get? I know what I think you'd get for this.
Do you?
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, I've got quite a few rentals in Helensburgh. So what do you think you'd get for this as a buy-to-let?
I don't know, maybe 600? 650 maybe?
650? Yeah, well,
Maybe six,
two beds. I've got 2 beds, similar quality to this, similar style to this, and my 2 beds are getting, if we look back even 1 year, my 2 beds would only be 450, 475. But with all the anti-landlord tax, with people leaving the market, with, I mean, it's not happened in Scotland, it happened years ago in Scotland, but even people talking about the letting fees ban, which has just happened in England on the 1st of June, it happened years ago in Scotland. But landlords have left the market and there's just less rental properties. So the prices have shot up, absolutely rocketed up. So this year, a property that was giving me 450, 475 last year is now giving me 550, 575. And that's a 2 bed. So 3 beds, I think if I was marketing this as a 3 bed, I'd be 650, 675. And I wouldn't be surprised if I got 700. So 700 a month. Let's say you did put an 84,000 mortgage on it. Let's say it was 2%. 2% of 84,000, or 1% is 840, so 2% would be 1,680 divided by 12. Sorry, I'm doing this in my head, everybody.
I'm just glad you're doing it in your head, not my head.
Your mortgage payments, depending on the interest rate, is going to be somewhere between about 130 and 150 a month. So let's say you're getting 650 a month. Take off your mortgage, you'd be £500 a month. Now, it depends how you're going to manage it. You know, I don't know in terms of you're about to be a mummy. You know, I don't know what your lifestyle's going to be. But you do know about managing property. It's kind of what you do now, isn't it?
Exactly. So I would be passing that.
But even say you pay an agent 50 quid or something, you should be making 450 a month. So, question for everybody out there in internet land: if you were Cara, let's do it. Let's vote. What should Cara do? Should she keep it, mortgage it, and maybe get 5-6 grand cash out? But you can still get something for baby with 5 or 6 grand.
Oh, absolutely.
And 450, 500 a month, and capital appreciation as this place goes up over the years. Or should you get shot and get 25 grand minus tax? What would you do? Having done this once, you can do it again.
Yes, 100%.
Yep.
Yeah, already looking.
Already looking. So find people with a problem, because effectively Paul had a problem, didn't he?
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't know what to do with it.
Yep.
You solved his problem,
Mm-hmm.
you make some money.
Exactly.
Because how many of these would you do, folks, if this has cost Cara no money? And she's either going to end up with 25 grand minus tax, or 5-6 grand and 400-500 quid a month.
Mm-hmm.
That's not bad, is it? But here's the critical thing: for no money. So if you learnt to do what Cara's done, and you do all this for no money, final thought, if you're giving advice to somebody out there, if you were giving advice to you a year ago, never having done it before,
Yeah.
and somebody's watching this and they're like, oh, wow, bloody hell, Cara's done it, I'd quite like to do that.
Yeah.
What advice would you give them?
I think first of all, just to actually start looking and start doing it.
Yeah.
Really. To actually stop putting barriers in the way as possible. So.
Well, you know it's possible because you've done it.
Definitely.
But people are out there watching this thinking, oh, that was lucky, or she's only doing it because she's got pots of money. Well, whether you got pots of money or not is irrelevant, because you didn't use any, did you?
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, what's been the most important thing, do you think, that's helped you to do this?
Well, I suppose originally that I'd gone out and had done some property training, so that had opened my mind up about different, I suppose, more creative ways to.
So just even becoming aware it's possible
100%.
and getting some education.
Yeah.
Because the one thing we haven't done yet is tell them who your brother is. Because some people watching this will know who Cara's brother is,
Yeah.
won't they?
Yep.
Go on then, Cara, who's your brother?
Gordy Duffield.
Gordy. So this is about the most un-Gordy-like person that you're the total opposite, aren't you?
Oh, totally.
Patience. So what Cara's saying, everybody, I think, is get the education,
Yep.
become aware of what's possible,
Mm-hmm.
and surround yourself with the right people. 'Cause
Yep.
even though Gordy's nothing like you, he is, in his own unique way, inspirational, isn't he?
Absolutely, yeah.
And he's doing lots of property deals
Yep.
all over the shop.
Definitely.
So if you've got brothers like Gordy in your life, that is probably going to make you do things, isn't
You've got no excuse then.
it? No excuse. All right, so we're going to sign off. Hope you've enjoyed this edition of Money Matters, because after all, money does matter. Okay, so hope you've enjoyed that episode of Money Matters. Final shot. This is the flat we've just been in from the rear. We're obviously in a car park. And so the final conversation I had with Cara, just off camera there, is she's really not sure now whether she's going to sell this or whether she's going to remortgage it and keep it. She had one concern, which is why I've come out to the car park. She really knows more about service accommodation than anything else. And her concern was lack of on-site parking. Well, look, I mean, here's my car. We're in the car park. It's up there. But this car park is free from 6 o'clock at night till 8 o'clock in the morning, which is when most guests, from a service accommodation point of view, would stay there anyway. And even during the day, you get free parking for 2 hours. So I've just had a conversation with her that I think it would be absolutely perfect for service accommodation. We've got multiple service accommodation units in Helensburgh, which is where we are, by the way. I don't know if you picked that up earlier on. We're in a town called Helensburgh. I live in a local village to here called Rue, but nobody's ever heard of Rue. It's tiny, absolutely tiny. So Helensburgh and Rue, service accommodation, 3-bedroom flat, perfect, and all this space too. So I don't know, watch this space. We'll maybe post an update. I'm fascinated to see what Cara does next. And we'll see if we can convince Cara to come back on camera once she's had the baby and let us know the next instalment of her commercial to residential conversion. You've been wonderful. I've been Paul. See you next time.